Someday we'll roll away the stone we have carried for so long, and all our burdens will be gone. I can't wait. We'll find our way to an understanding of all views, and no prayers will be refused. I can't wait. Seems we have gone too far, now we don't know where we are. I believe we'll find a guiding star. I can't wait. Faith is the final place where all fears have been erased. Locks have fallen from the gates. I can't wait. Someday we'll roll away the stone that we have carried for so long, and all our burdens will be gone. I can't wait.
Hey everybody, welcome to Vespers. We're so glad that you have joined us this evening. Another chance for us to gather together and to remember that we are not alone. So we light this candle this evening celebrating the presence of Christ in us, among us, and beyond us. Remembering all of those in our family faith and those in our wider community who are suffering this evening. But it's so great to get to be with you. Last night, Jake and I were on our way back from baseball practice, which is something that we hadn't done for quite some time. And he was saying on the way home how sometimes you can forget about how much you enjoy something, how much joy that something can bring to you until you go out and you do it again, and then you remember, oh man, I love this so much, and it's so much fun and brings so much life. And I was thinking about that this week a few times, how I don't realize I need something till I'm there. Like on Monday night, we had our writers' workshop. And after that meeting, I felt so refreshed. Writing by itself can be a healing experience, but when you do it in the midst of a company of friends who care and who are welcoming and accepting, it can be downright transformative. Or today, as I went in to, gratefully get my first dose of the vaccine, I walk in and who do I see but Cindy Abernathy is there greeting me. And what a grace and a comfort it is to be able to be in the company of friends and to be reminded that there are better days ahead. And so it's exciting to be able to do that. It's exciting to be able to be outside for a little bit today and to feel the warmer air a little bit in the afternoon, and maybe think that spring is on the way. So it's good to be with you, and we hope everyone is safe and well this evening as we get to talk with Jan Cottrell this evening. Mark has done an interview with Reverend Dr. Jan Cottrell, and she's an Episcopal priest, a pastoral counselor, a spiritual director, and more than that too. And I'll let Mark do his introduction later. But you may know Jan already, or have heard her preach, as she's preached at Central before. And tonight, she and Mark are going to talk about something interesting, the spiritual practice of walking labyrinths. That may or may not be something that you've encountered in Baptist traditions before, but it's a beautiful practice and an ancient practice, and something that really could be a helpful way for us to engage with Lent. And so we're going to go now and listen to Mark and Jan as they talk about labyrinths. So let's go and talk with them now.
Good evening, everyone. It is so good to be with you for this Vespers special with Reverend Dr. Jan Cottrell. Many of you have met Jan, who has preached in our church a couple of times before, but we are so thankful that she's available to be with us tonight. She is an ordained Episcopal priest, a licensed pastoral counselor, a clinical mental health chaplain, a spiritual director, and a volunteer beyond all those other things in missionary projects that I shared with her to Haiti 1 year on a medical mission. She has also taken medical mission, or I guess I would call them ecological missions, with her husband, who has joined her on many of these missionary ventures with water purification and helping communities have safe water in Central America. She has volunteered as a visitor for prisoners in the federal prison system, and has worked with wounded veterans and veterans that are traumatized from their experience, both mentally, emotionally, as well as physically. So Jan, we are so thankful that we are here to speak about something totally different, but still interrelated to all those other things that I've mentioned. And that is your experience with labyrinths. And I see a beautiful one that you have laid out, but we're going to talk about your journey with labyrinths. And so Jan, welcome. And it's so good to have you with us for Vespers.
It is my pleasure. I'm delighted, and I'm grateful for our friendship and shared ministry with Christ. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Well, tell me a bit about how you first got interested in labyrinths and what your experience has been with them.
Okay. Well, I tried to remember when I first became aware of even the word labyrinth, and it might have been like I took my children to a church camp in North Carolina in 1981. They were like toddlers. And there was this, it wasn't a labyrinth conference or anything, but it was in Hendersonville at this place called Canuga. And someone had a portable labyrinth. There wasn't a concrete labyrinth yet at this place called Canuga. And I saw people walking around on it, and I thought, like many people do, it was some kind of maze. And then I watched the children like run around on it, and they, kept finding it. And so this kind of stuck with me. But after I left that conference and camp, I did some more exploration and realized came to know it was an ancient tool. Maybe, don't quote me on this, anybody. It might be as much as 5,000 years old. And then in the Middle Ages, I understand there were 80 cathedrals in Europe built, and maybe I think I remember reading 46 of those 80 cathedrals had labyrinths on the floor. Wow. So it was a prayer tool, for a long time. Cards Cathedral is the most famous of the cathedrals. that has an 11 circuit. Those are the turns in your labyrinth that became kind of the standard. And it's the 11 turns are the 11 cycles of the moon. So it's, although it may have come to the Christian faith around the Middle Ages, it was born, I believe, out of the human creature's desire to be close to the earth as creatures of the earth. Mm-hmm. It's embodied prayer because you're, and it's perfect for someone like me because I don't like to sit still. I'm a failed meditator.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can walk it out. I can embody. And to me, that's one of the great values of walking the labyrinth is you embody something, you feel it. Your body, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, which has nothing to do with labyrinths, but the body can keep the score of our prayer life too.
Yeah, that's right. And, it probably occurred sometime just in a few hundred years where we thought prayer was sitting silently and quietly and reverently. But throughout the history of human spirituality, people have prayed as they've gone on great journeys. Before we had cars, you had to walk everywhere, and often you were alone. And that became a context of prayer. Of course, the tradition of the Catholic faith of having a rosary beads and to use this tactile touch as a way of working your way through different types of prayer and different focuses of prayer. And so I think the labyrinth can be a way of renewal for us in our prayer journey to recognize it's just not an inner dialogue, but it is an active participation as God calls us into the world. Tell me about some of your experiences of walking a labyrinth and what it's meant to you.
Well, again, as an Episcopalian, and of course, I'm very fond of my tradition, but I consider myself in many ways in the backyard of the tradition because I have a fond affection for any denomination and faith tradition. But Episcopalians, we can be a little bit snobby about.
I don't know any of those. You may know more Episcopalians than I do, but I don't think I've ever known.
About knowing it all about labyrinths. But and I was among those in 2014 when I was doing my clinical training at the VA to become a chaplain and pastoral counselor. It was announced one day that we would be required to take a labyrinth training. And I thought, oh, I know about labyrinths. I walk them. We have one down by our cathedral in Lexington, Kentucky. Well, was I ever wrong and humbled?
Wow.
Spent 2 days, and Ken did this training with me. It turned out you could invite a spouse or partner. And I really learned about the ways you can use the labyrinth to go, one, into your inner life, into your unconscious, and tap into things of God in ways that it's not just walking around in circles, which is frankly what I thought it was about. Sure. But it's a part of the pilgrimage that we can all share together. And like I remember after that training, I was working with some veterans, and I was observing people walk the labyrinth is also very prayerful. When he finished, he said, "I learned something," and I said, "What?" And he said, "When you go around the turn, you have to slow down." And I love that.
Yeah,
when we make our turns in life, we need to. The pilgrimage of life has many turns, and we need to slow down before we enter.
Yeah, that's what the spiritual life asks of us, is to not just rush through life, but to reflect upon our living of life. And by reflecting upon it carefully, we come to this deeper understanding of gratitude for our existence and our purpose and our place in the world. Yeah, that's a wonderful way of thinking about that. We slow down at the turns.
Slow down at the turns, and it's a beautiful process to walk it or to watch someone, because you when you're walking it, it feels like you're kind of walking. You walk by where you went in several times, and you keep walking by the center, but you don't get there. But you have to stay focused on the path, which is a beautiful metaphor for our life discernment. Staying focused on our path. and staying in our own lane. It often when, if you're walking in a group, which is a beautiful practice too, you got to stay in your lane. And,
Now, after that first experience and started to become a bit more aware of labyrinths, you really just kind of fell in love with them. And I know you have a homemade labyrinth that you have in your yard still today. Can you tell me about it and maybe what the neighborhood thinks about the crazy Episcopal priest that has a labyrinth laying out in her driveway?
Well, before I do that, can I show everybody the labyrinth?
Yeah.
That way they'll know what I'm talking about. And I'll start talking as you're going to get to see my kitchen and living room and my dog as I walk through, and even my husband show up. Let
Get
me
the full Jan Cottrell experience.
Right.
Wow, look at that. Yeah.
So, and you'll see in the four corners I have paintings. They're Native American symbols of North, East, South, and West. And how that came to be is a very good friend of mine. His name is Wolf. Of course, you have to have that kind of name to be close to the earth. He was the architect for this labyrinth in Versailles. Mm-hmm. And he was working on a template for it, and he told me about it. And so right as COVID started, he and I had this conversation, and he told me how to make one. So I ordered a 20 by 20 drop cloth from Amazon, as he instructed, $100, and my husband likes to paint, so he helped me, and we wanted to have at least 7 circuits. That's a typical, those are the turns. 11 is the starts, a Crete labyrinth. I'll show you that in a minute. Oh, here's a Crete labyrinth is on my table. It has 3 circuits. But it was a powerful experience to do it during COVID. Okay, 20 by 20 drop cloth. We put it in outside where you just saw it. Mm-hmm. And I started slowly painting it with rollers, and Ken was working on some of the corners, and I realized my knees were bleeding regularly because it's concrete. So
wow.
Ken cleared out the garage, thought we were moving, and we spread it out in the garage.
Okay.
Now it's a drop cloth, so paint doesn't go through drop cloths, right?
Right.
Wrong.
You thought,
we have a labyrinth on the garage floor now.
You have a stencil. Yeah.
Right. So, but painting it mattered to me. As I made the turns with the paint, it was more powerful than walking it, because I was praying it and thinking about who would walk it, and I wanted the color to be green. I wanted it to be life-giving and close to the earth. And that's why I chose the Native American symbols, and I was thinking of the children in the neighborhood. I thought, well, I need to remind them that they don't have to make it all the way to the center right away. If they can step off to the corner and take a rest or chat with a friend, and they do that. So I sent out a picture to our neighborhood, Copperfield Court, and I sent a picture and said, I'm going to be putting it out during nice weather. And if you want to come down, but no, because of COVID, I had to restrict the numbers. And then children came down on their bikes with their crash helmets on. And I just let them find their way. It was so beautiful. I was watching their essence. They would imagine that I could see, they were like imagining they were airplanes on it, which, it tells us that when we go into the labyrinth, we can go in silence, but if an image surfaces, to hold it.
Right. And
let your imagination, we as adults have lost so much of our imagination. Mm-hmm. But it's a great tool to reconnect with some of our deepest parts. I'll tell you one other story that taught me a lot in the training. When we did the training, we were asked then to take our veterans, and they put the name of a battle buddy on an index card, someone that they had known in combat that had died, and to take it and just hold the name. Well, when the training, I did that. My own dad is a veteran who died. And so I took my dad's name in and did exactly as I was told to do. Think of nothing. It was like, okay, here's how to go into the labyrinth. Imagine you're a pool full of water and the plug is pulled.
Wow.
and everything drains out of you. So all you're going to do is hold whatever you're going to focus on. So I'm holding my dad's name and just walking, and out of my unconscious came a memory, a childhood memory that was so joyful that it was in me, but I had totally forgotten it. And I just remembered something he did that was hilarious and fun on 4th of July when I was 5 years old.
Isn't that amazing?
I know.
We haven't talked about this, but really the labyrinth also kind of looks like a cross section of the human mind. And if we think about, those different twists and turns and layers, and how the unconscious still would carry it with us, and part of the labyrinth's calling for us to slow down and movement is to open up those hidden memories or those unconscious treasures that are there. And it's, it's also, I guess, part of the Holy Spirit, maybe bringing those to consciousness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I even suggest to people who have not walked the labyrinth in their life or in a long time to just walk it first and get a feel for the turns, and then walk it with intention. Walk it with there's a website called Veritas. Laura Artris is the founder of that, and she's probably the wisdom woman guru of the labyrinth that's ever lived. And she lives out in California now. Has written 4 or 5 books about the labyrinth. But I've learned a lot from reading her stuff. And you can go on Veritas website, and they have I've gotten handouts, just free handouts. They're very generous. And
you can trace a labyrinth with your finger too, right? That would be another way to do the participation of the labyrinth, right?
There is. Did I send you the app, the Labyrinth app? I will.
Think so,
it's called the Labyrinth Journey App, and it's on. Of course, you can do it on your phone or iPad or whatever. And as you go through it, it lights up on the journey.
Oh.
And this tells me something about children too. Like my 4-year-old grandson, when I've been tucking him into bed, I pulled my phone out because, of course, my daughter, of course, doesn't like a lot of screen time for him, and I totally agree. But I let him do the labyrinth, and he falls asleep because it lights up in the dark.
Wow!
And it's just beautiful to watch a child,
focus and quiet the mind. And wow.
I've never fallen asleep walking the labyrinth, but
as a grandparent trying to get a child to calm down when they're getting to have a special night of spending the night without their parents, this is well worth the advice. Just that alone is, but I'm just,
well, if I will share the app with you, but it's called the Labyrinth Journey.
Sure.
And be sure to share it with your folks.
Right. Yeah.
And your grandchildren.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to, I'll talk to the church for a moment and say that we're going to offer more handles for you to participate in labyrinths, and you'll see that in a future email and blog post, website kinds of invitations, as well as perhaps having a labyrinth. I know Jan's graciously going to let us borrow that during Holy Week. So we'll have a scheduled time if you want to come up to the church property and walk the labyrinth during Holy Week. That will also be available to you. So you're going to have some opportunities, and some of these things that Jan is mentioning, we'll put out there so you can come back to them and experience this for yourself.
The other thing people can do is if you go to the Veritas site, there's a Labyrinth Locator, and you can put in different mileage of how far you'll go, and it will locate labyrinths. I know there's a beautiful labyrinth in Danville, in Versailles. 100 Presbyterian Church has a really interesting labyrinth painted in their parking lot. And there's one downtown near Christ Church Cathedral, but that one's not, you have to make arrangements with somebody, you just can't go.
Sure.
So with the beautiful weather coming, to locate places.
That's great. Yeah, that's really helpful. And I have not driven out to the one in Versailles, and I think we have said sometimes we want to seek permission besides just showing up for some of these places. They may have a scheduled event, and talk a little bit more, if you don't mind, about your experience with the one in Versailles with veterans, because I know you've taken at least one or two groups of veterans and encouraged them to walk the labyrinth. And tell us a little bit more of some of those stories.
Of course. Well, the labyrinth, again, the architect was my friend Wolf Hicks, who grew up going to this place called the Life Adventure Camp. It's now called the Life Adventure Center. And when he came back to Kentucky after being away for years, he discovered that a place where he had worked, where there were these beautiful stones, that the stones were gone. And he went on a mission to find the stones, and he wanted to build this labyrinth. And he literally took 6 full months of his life drawing, designing. And I've got he saved me all the pictures of everything. And then he's not a veteran himself, but he invited wounded warriors to come and help move the stones. And some of the stones are as big as you are.
Yeah.
They're huge.
Wow.
And he arranged them on a path, and he made it accessible, handicap accessible, which is really important. And it's up on a gentle hill that overlooks creation. You feel like, to me, you feel like you are really in the original monastery, our earth, when you're there.
Wow.
This is the monastery where we started. And he put different symbols, like, for instance, you'll see on my table labyrinth, I've got symbols of the earth, like some more rocks and a tree. And I always keep a cup of water because I like to remind myself I'm baptized and try to act like it. And
it's a gift. I mean, it's a gift to have water, thinking about those that are deprived of water, even in our own country through this storm and, in the South, it's Mid-South. Yeah. Go on. Yeah. Thank you.
So, anyway, when I was working at the VA, which I'm not now, we'd have every week we took groups of veterans who were struggling with PTSD and addiction disorders out on trips. We'd go out to the horse farm or whatever, but the labyrinth in Versailles was one of the places that I was really surprised they really liked going there. They like walking it out.
Wow.
And we're talking about people from all kinds of faith traditions, many of the veterans who had seen so much horror. Why in the world would they believe in a God of goodness?
Sure.
I mean, it was really hard for them to find their way back. And actually, in that sense, they found their way back often to some sense of something greater than themselves.
Wow.
And that was really powerful to witness.
And the discovery of something sacred. I can imagine, given what they've gone through, you would almost imagine they could not claim sacred space anymore because everything had been profaned by the violence and horror of war. And to recognize that this is a sacred planet. It's a creation. And, war tears apart that creation. And then they enter back into a place where you're not going to be harmed, but you can begin to find healing. It's so powerful to think about a person being able to re-enter back into the earth as a friend rather than as a threat. It's just, I just really appreciate your ministry with that. And, we always say, thank you for your service, but then we just go our merry way and don't really help folks who are struggling at such a profound level. So.
Well, I'll have to share, I have to dig around on my computer, but I have a picture of the veterans. When they got to the center, it just happened. They put their arms around each other and just stayed there. It's just, it's just a powerful moment that they were connected to each other and to the earth, and the sacrament of the wind that they felt going through them. There was, it was just that, and walking a labyrinth outdoors offers its own spiritual benefits that, yes, sometimes we have to make them and walk them inside or whatever, but being outdoors, I'm excited about the spring. Yeah.
Yes, we are all excited about the spring.
Yes.
You know, I just feel like we could talk all day about Labyrinths with you, because you have so many beautiful stories and experiences. And, you know, in part, this was a way to invite folks to consider this as a Christian practice for your own journey, and to think about the invitation of spring and the beauty of creation that is beckoning to you to slow down at the turns. And, you know, this has been a year where we've had to slow down in many ways because of isolation, but to think about that as a spiritual invitation of new discovery of God might be a way to re-enter the world with a greater sense of calm, grace, and strength. So Jan, thanks so much for being with us tonight in Vespers. It's been a wonderful conversation, and we will be sending some of those links that you had heard mentioned tonight by Jan. But Jan, we wish you a blessed Lenten season, and are so appreciative of your ministry and your and Ken's ministry to others as you just live this gracious heart of love to Lexington and to the surrounding world. I always tell Jan she's an inspiration. You know, someday maybe I can be a minister like Jan. That would be an achievement if I could do that. So thank you so much.
Well, you're so welcome. I feel the same about you and your community. I love coming to Central.
Good. All right. Thank you very much for being with us tonight.
All right.
All right.
Thanks so much, Jan, for being with us this evening. It was so great to get to learn more about Labyrinths, and to get to hear about some of the beautiful experiences that you've had. And it's amazing how so often things that feel like they're structured, like this labyrinth, like there has to be a right and a wrong way to do it, when you start hearing about it, you find this grace. And this opportunity to just be and to just be present. So thanks for helping us to see and learn more about that. It was great to get to do that, and wonderful to hear the stories that you have to share. I forgot to mention at the beginning, I'm sorry I put it in the chat, that if you have questions, Jan and Ken are here on the chat, so you can post some questions in the chat, and then like Mark said, we'll make sure and get some of these resources that Jan has mentioned to you in the newsletter tomorrow. So let's sing a song before we go. How about He Leadeth Me? He leadeth me, O blessed thought, O words with heavenly comfort fraught. Whate'er I do, where'er I be, still 'tis God's hand that leadeth me. He leadeth me by His own hand. He leadeth me, His faithful follower I would be, for by His hand He leadeth me. Sometimes mid scenes of deepest gloom, sometimes where Eden's bowers bloom, by waters still or troubled sea, still 'tis God's hand that leadeth me. He leadeth me by His own hand. He leadeth me, His faithful follower I would be, we're so grateful for Jan for speaking with us tonight, and for the opportunity to get to hear from you. It's been wonderful, and we're so glad that you all have joined us this evening for Vespers. We'll be back here again on our YouTube channel on Sunday for worship, so we invite you to join us for the third Sunday of Lent. I think it's the third. Is it the third Sunday? Anyway, I hope it's the third Sunday of Lent on Sunday. And as we continue to worship together, there's other groups that are happening. There's baby boomers that are meeting. There's Thursday school that meets, ironically enough, on Thursday. We have writers' workshops that are continuing, as well as travel group, which meets tomorrow night on Thursday, where we get to hear from Linda Hopgood about her travels to Germany and to Eastern Europe. If you'd like to join that group, we have the Zoom link for that, and at the top of the email that'll go out again tomorrow, so that you'll have that link there. If you'd like more information about it, send me an email, aaron@lexcentral.com, and I'll make sure you get all the links and everything that you need so you can hear that. It's going to be a great experience and a great time to hear that. We're so grateful for Jane Tatum for heading that up, and for Gwen Hart hosting that as well. So thank you so much for joining us again, and for continuing to be this beautiful family of faith that walks with us wherever we may be. So we'll see you again on Sunday. For now, go in peace.